Hey everybody, we're going to be talking about the triangle mid-segment theorem in this edition. The triangle mid-segment theorem is not really too difficult of a concept. It's actually pretty easy to work with. So let's talk about what it is first. First of all, the triangle mid-segment theorem, we have to have on two of the sides of our triangles, we have to have a midpoint. So D right now is the midpoint of AB, and E is the midpoint of BC. So these are both in the middle of their respective sides. Now, that means that AD is congruent to DB, and that BE is congruent to EC. So, if we were given one of these smaller sides here, we could figure out the other side immediately because they're congruent. Or if we're given the side length of the entire thing, we can figure out each piece by dividing by 2. So if they ever ask us about perimeter in these problems, it's a pretty easy thing to work with. But we're not too concerned about perimeter necessarily with all of them, because something happens when we have two midpoints on a triangle that are connected. We call this a midsegment. Now, the two things that we get from this, first is that the segment that's created is going to be parallel to the opposite side. So we get that DE is parallel to AC. But what's even more important about this particular theorem is the length. The length of DE is going to be half of that side that it's parallel to. So DE is 1/2 the length of AC. So if we're given the length of AC, we get DE by dividing by 2. If they give us DE, we're going to just multiply by 2 to get the longer piece. Okay, pretty easy theorem to work with. So let's take a look at an example. Okay, this first example tells us that we want to find the length of JK, which is right in here. Now this is the midsegment. We know that it's a midsegment because we have two congruent pieces and two congruent pieces. So the first thing that we get right away is that these are parallel. But they're asking us for a length, and we know that JK is going to be half of AC. Well, we're trying to find out JK, so we'll call that X. It's going to be half of AC, which is 18. That gives me a length of 9. Okay, so I want you to try this next problem out on your own. Okay, it's a little bit blurry. I'm sorry. I wish I could figure out why. But it's asking you to find the length of DF if VU equals 9. So try this one on your own, pause the video, and resume when you're ready to check. Alright, let's see how you did. We should know that DF is twice the length, seeing as this is the longer piece, of VU. Well, DF is 2 times the amount of, here it's 9, so we're going to get DF equaling 18. Okay, pretty easy problems to work with. Alright, I have 2 more problems. If you would like to take a second to pause and try these 2 out on your own, they shouldn't take you too long, so see how you do again, and we'll go over them in a minute. Alright, let's check out to see how you did with these. Okay, we're trying to find the length of IK right here. This is our longer side. We notice that we have midpoints, right? Because we see that we have these equal pieces. So this is a mid-segment, in fact. So we know it's parallel, and we know that this is going to be half the length of IK. So if SR is worth 5, we want this to be twice the length. That gives us IK equaling 10. Now, these problems, it's not necessary to show your work because it's such an easy process. However, if you get the question wrong and you show no work, There's no way for me or any other teacher to give you credit. So I would suggest showing your work if you have troubles with your multiplication and division, so at least you might be able to get some partial credit. But if you're confident in your multiplication, then you can just go for these right away. No work necessary. Looking at PQ. PQ is the smaller piece. We know that it's going to be half of the side that it's parallel to. So if SU is 30, we want half of 30, 30 divided by 2, which is going to give us 15. Again, no work necessary for these problems as long as you're getting the correct answer. If you get the incorrect answer with no work, it's very tough for anybody to give you partial credit. So just keep that in mind. Alright, here's a different example. This time we notice that we still have midpoint, mid-segments that are going to end up being parallel. So I can add those parallel lines in. But now we notice that we don't have whole numbers. We have variable equations. Don't let that bother you. We're going to write down just like we did before. X plus 2 is going to be equal to half of the longer side, 3x plus 8. Okay, so we're just going to set up the equation like we did before. To get rid of this half, I'm going to multiply both sides times 2. That'll eliminate my 1/2. I need to make sure to distribute, so I have 2x plus 4. That equals 3x plus 8. Here I'm going to subtract 2x from both sides. And I'm also going to, with the same step, subtract 8 from both sides. That's going to leave me with -4 equals x. So again, I'm not looking for a side length, so I'm okay with a negative. I'm only looking for the value of x that makes this true. And if I was to plug in these, yes, I would end up with negatives. However, we're really more concerned with what the value of x would be. Okay, so let's take another look at an example. You can try this one out on your own. Okay, again, take the time to set up the equation before you go doing the work. Okay, pause the video and resume when you're ready to check. Alright, let's see how you did. I know that x minus 3, my smaller piece, is going to be half the length of x plus 6, my bigger piece. We need to multiply both sides by 2 to clear out that half. Don't forget to distribute. 2x minus 6 equals x plus 6. I'm going to subtract x from both sides so that I have my x's all on one side. I'm going to add 6 to both sides so I clear out. So I have my isolated variable. When I add 6 and 6, I come up with 12. Hopefully you came up with 12 too. So that's how these problems work. Really not too difficult to work with. Again, it's just a matter of knowing that this smaller piece is half of the longer, or the longer piece being twice the size of the smaller. Regardless if we have numbers or if we have little equations like this, we can still set up and solve in only a few steps. Okay, any questions you guys have, leave them on the website or bring them to class and we'll talk about them then.